Most people who claim to notice synchronicities are still blind to the deeper truth. They point to coincidences, chalk up moments of alignment to luck, or share stories on social media as if mere recognition is awakening. Yet there exists a subtle frequency, a rhythm of the universe that only those who have truly crossed the invisible threshold perceive. That sudden encounter with a stranger, the repeated number sequences, the song that appears at the exact moment your heart calls for it. It is not happenstance. The world is not random. It is a web of consciousness speaking directly to you, if only you are ready to listen. Most people spend their lives chasing signs without understanding the language of the signs themselves. They attend workshops, read spiritual guides, or follow numerology charts, mistaking symbols for magic when magic is not something outside. It is inside. Edgar Cayce spoke of a reality where consciousness shapes events. Man is a co-creator with the infinite, he said. The events that appear to be external coincidences are simply the reflection of an internal alignment with a higher dimensional self. You have felt it before, haven't you? That subtle nudge like reality momentarily bending. Perhaps a street light turns green as you think of leaving. Perhaps a friend you hadn't spoken to in years appears in a moment of need. Most dismiss it. But for those who are awake, every seemingly minor synchronicity is a thread connecting the inner world with the outer, a confirmation that thought, desire, and vibration are inseparable from the fabric of reality. The truly awakened do not seek synchronicities. They inhabit them. They pass through the world as a silent conductor of unseen harmonies. Neville Goddard, who explored the imagination as the divine creative faculty, described it as living in the end. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he said, and when you do, the universe moves, not against you, but with you. Every coincidence that follows is not random. It is the world acknowledging your alignment with your own inner state. The numbers, the songs, the encounters, they are letters in the alphabet of reality. But here's the test that few recognize. Most people will notice synchronicities and attribute them to luck, chance, or God knows what. But true understanding comes when your entire nervous system shifts. When you stop trying to chase signs and instead become the sign. When the world around you begins to pulse with meaningful echoes, not because you are looking for them, but because your internal state has become a mirror. Cayce taught that dreams and visions are not fantasies. They are messages from the higher self. A dream about an event you later encounter in life is not premonition. It is the interaction of consciousness across dimensions. It is proof that time, as we perceive it, is not linear. The past, present, and future exist simultaneously, and consciousness is the bridge. Synchronicities are merely the fingerprints of your soul upon the world. Consider for a moment the subtle guidance of life when you are fully present. The right people appear at the right time. The wrong circumstances dissolve without drama. Doors close quietly, not in punishment, but in redirection. You no longer chase opportunity. You attract it by inhabiting a frequency where opportunity naturally arises. This is the principle behind synchronicity. The world conforms to the patterns of your consciousness, but only when those patterns are coherent, unwavering, and deeply aligned with your true self. This is why those who are still spiritually performing miss the message. They meditate to escape, read to control, and ritualize to force results. Synchronicity cannot be forced. It is not a technique or a mantra. It is a reflection of the uncontrived, unmasked self. You do not receive it by seeking. You receive it by inhabiting the state that naturally emanates it. Neville Goddard called it four-dimensional thinking. Imagine the self as existing in layers, the conscious mind bound to physical reality, and the imagination bound to infinite potential. Every decision, every choice, every desire is a ripple across dimensions. Synchronicities are the echoes of these ripples, the visible imprint of an invisible world interacting with the tangible. When you feel them, you are observing the convergence of worlds that most cannot perceive. The surrender that accompanies the recognition of synchronicity is subtle but profound. It is disguised as nothing less than ordinary life. Relationships end quietly because your frequency has changed. Friends vanish not through conflict, but through incompatibility. Careers collapse under the weight of truth you cannot ignore. Everything that was built on pretense dissolves naturally, leaving only the essence of who you are. And it is here, in the quiet collapse of illusions, that synchronicities become evident. You notice patterns because your own state of being has become a pattern. The world now responds, not to your desperate seeking, but to the resonance of your authenticity. Edgar Cayce described this as alignment with the infinite self, the point where personal will no longer clashes with universal law. Synchronicities are the breadcrumbs showing you that alignment is real, that your inner state has consequences outside the self. Most people will never experience this. They will see a pattern once or twice and write it off as coincidence. They do not yet understand that the universe is an intimate and responsive matrix, and every thought, feeling, and choice contributes to its unfolding. The awakened know that no meeting, no event, no chance encounter is random. Even the most devastating losses, the most painful endings, carry the fingerprints of divine orchestration, pointing toward growth, clarity, and alignment. There is also a practical side to understanding synchronicity that modern consciousness often misses. The frequency that attracts meaningful coincidence also repels misalignment. People who feed off drama, energy vampires, and the compulsive seekers who create chaos around them simply disappear. No confrontation is needed. The universe reorganizes itself according to your vibration. Life begins to resemble a dance rather than a battlefield. Time itself begins to bend. You notice coincidences not as isolated events but as strings, sequences, and waves. Days fold into each other. A thought in the morning manifests by afternoon. Dreams guide action before conscious decisions are made. This is the principle Neville Goddard described. Imagining as real, acting as if, living in the end. In such a state, the improbable becomes inevitable. Synchronicities are no longer rare. They are habitual, a natural expression of living in harmony with higher dimensions. And yet, the paradox remains. You do not create synchronicities by wanting them. You receive them by ceasing to want anything beyond the expression of your true self. When you stop chasing signs, the signs begin to chase you. The surrender, the release of striving, the quiet acceptance that you are already aligned. This is the crucible in which synchronicities are born. Even ordinary moments become extraordinary. A traffic light turns green exactly as your mind shifts to a new thought. A stranger says the word that mirrors your internal question. A book falls from a shelf, opening to a page that contains exactly what you need to know. These are not miracles. They are the language of a conscious universe speaking in a frequency you now recognize. Cayce called this reading the living book of God, and Goddard called it living from the end. Both are pointing to the same truth. Consciousness is the instrument, and the world is the score. Synchronicities teach patience, presence, and trust. They are not mechanical results, but organic manifestations. They reveal that life is intelligent, that reality is pliable, and that you are not separate from the source. Every coincidence carries a message, and the key is to listen without agenda, to act without desperation, and to feel without attachment. Your nervous system, tuned to subtle frequencies, begins to detect these alignments naturally. Heart rate variability increases. Moments of awareness expand. You sense layers of reality that others pass through blind. It is not psychic ability or magical power. It is the natural unfolding of consciousness when stripped of distraction, ego, and incessant striving. You become the observer and the participant, the seeker and the found, simultaneously. Synchronicities are also a mirror. They reflect what is real and what is illusion in your life. When you notice the same patterns repeating in your relationships or work, it is a message. Change is not external. It is internal. Alter the state of being, and the world responds. This is not theory. Cayce's readings consistently emphasize the power of thought, the reality of inner transformation shaping outer life. What appears random is the necessary unfolding of your consciousness projected into the three-dimensional stage. The ultimate truth behind synchronicities is this: they are an ongoing reminder that the universe is alive, that consciousness is fundamental, and that your life is not a sequence of accidents but a coherent narrative guided by your own alignment. Neville Goddard called it the law of assumption. Cayce described it as alignment with the infinite self. Both point to the same principle. When your inner state is clear, coherent, and embodied, the world naturally aligns, and synchronicities become visible markers of your own awakening. Do not look for signs as validation. Do not chase coincidences as proof. Instead, cultivate a state in which your entire being resonates with clarity, love, and trust. Inhabit the life you already are, not the one you hope to reach. In this presence, every coincidence, every encounter, every moment becomes saturated with meaning. The veil of apparent randomness lifts. You begin to see patterns woven through all events, subtle threads connecting your inner reality to the outer world, a divine choreography orchestrated by the intelligence of consciousness itself. And here lies the final paradox. Synchronicities are never earned. They are never achieved. They are simply the natural echo of a consciousness that has stopped resisting, that has stopped striving, that has stopped trying to pass the test of life. The test was never about effort or technique. The test was about presence. The test was about inhabiting your own being so completely that the universe can no longer help but respond. So, notice the coincidences. Feel the threads connecting moments, people, and experiences. See the patterns not as magic tricks, but as confirmation of the infinite intelligence within you. Align your inner world. Feel the state of the wish fulfilled. Live as if the end has already manifested. And you will discover, not by chasing, but by allowing, that life is a symphony, and synchronicities are its music, resonating to the frequency of your soul. This is the secret truth behind synchronicities. They are not rare. They are not random. They are not gifts to be begged for or prayed over. They are the natural language of an intelligent universe, waiting patiently for you to recognize that you have always been speaking it.